U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said Wednesday the U.S. is setting expectations for how they want the Chinese Communist Party to behave. This as the United States ordered China to close its consulate in the southwestern U.S. city of Houston, Texas. The move is due to what the U.S. calls the persistent problem of Beijing's theft of American intellectual property. At a news conference, Pompeo said it's not just intellectual property in America the Chinese are stealing.
When European intellectual property costing hundreds of thousands of jobs, good jobs for hardworking people all across Europe and America, stolen by the Chinese Communist Party.
Speaking to reporters in Beijing, China's foreign ministry spokesman accused the United States of harassing Chinese diplomatic and consular staff. China has until Friday to shut down the consulate. The number of coronavirus infections around the world passed 15 million Wednesday, with more than a quarter of those cases in the hardest hit country, the United States. At a news conference, President Trump says there are positive numbers about the virus in most parts of the nation.
Our nationwide positive test rate is beginning to decline and is currently at 8.8% compared to over 16% at its peak in April. It's coming down. It's coming down fairly rapidly.
Signs are emerging in other parts of the world that the virus quickly springs back when lockdown measures are lifted. Australia, Belgium, Hong Kong, and Japan's capital of Tokyo had all used restrictive measures to successfully beat outbreaks earlier in the pandemic, but all are now facing an upsurge in cases. Australia and Hong Kong set new daily records for confirmed cases Wednesday, and Tokyo's governor urged residents to stay home during an upcoming holiday as cases climb. Dozens of demonstrators locked themselves together to barricade Israel's parliament Wednesday to protest an upcoming vote granting the government expanded authority to bypass the Knesset in enacting coronavirus restrictions. Police arrested 4 people as they broke up the gathering, which followed a night of intense protests in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv over the government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic and subsequent economic crisis. The law, which would give the government of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu increased power until June 2021, would allow for greater restrictions on Israeli citizens. Netanyahu has seen a decrease in his popularity, mostly due to criticism of how he's handling the COVID-19 pandemic and his alleged corruption. The Trump administration is detaining immigrant children as young as 1-year-old in hotels before deporting them to their home countries. AP correspondent Ben Thomas reports.
Documents obtained by the Associated Press show a private contractor hired by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is taking children to 3 Hampton Inns in Arizona and Texas, where they're typically detained for several days. Federal anti-trafficking laws and a 2-decade-old court settlement that governs the treatment of migrant children require that most children be sent to government shelters for eventual placement with family sponsors. But the Trump administration is now immediately expelling asylum seekers, relying on a public health declaration related to the coronavirus to set aside those rules. I'm Ben Thomas.
Ukrainian, Russian, and OSCE negotiators reached an agreement Wednesday for a full ceasefire between government forces and pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine starting Monday. That's according to Ukraine's president's office. A simmering conflict between Ukrainian troops and Russian-backed rebels has killed more than 13,000 people since 2014. Major combat ended when a ceasefire agreed in the Belarus capital of Minsk in 2015, but sporadic clashes still regularly kill civilians, Ukrainian soldiers, and separatists. United Arab Emirates citizens will hold prayers for Eid al-Adha at homes instead of mosques, as a spokesperson for the National Emergency Crisis and Disaster Management Authority said Wednesday, and calls to prayers will be broadcasted. Eid al-Adha is a 4-day Muslim holiday. The spokesperson also added in a virtual news conference that the capacity of mosques will be raised to 50% starting August 3rd. The U.S. National Hurricane Center says tropical storm Gonzalo formed Wednesday over the Atlantic Ocean. Gonzalo has sustained winds of up to 75 kilometers per hour. This is the earliest time a G hurricane has appeared, which signifies an unprecedented hurricane season.